Welcome to Brian's Table, a food, wellness, and lifestyle channel. I'm Brian Sling. Today we're going to be making gluten-free waffles. Why gluten-free waffles? Well, I have greatly reduced gluten in my diet, and I love waffles. Plus, I have one of these. Many of you have these things lying around your house, and you never use them. And having access to gluten-free flour makes making waffles easier than ever before. Plus, this is made by Philips, which is a Dutch-based company, which is next to Belgium, which is famous for their waffles. Let's get to the recipe. Today's recipe for gluten-free waffles is courtesy of How Can It Be Gluten-Free from America's Test Kitchen. This is the third edition of this cookbook, and it was released in 2020. And each edition just gets better and better. Even though the recipes are gluten-free, they do not compromise on taste and texture, and they are very satisfying. Like anything cake-like, you gotta have the wet ingredients separated from the dry ingredients, and then add the wet to the dry. So let's start with the dry ingredients. 12 ounces of flour. I use Bob's Red Mill gluten-free flour. It's supposed to be a 1-to-1 substitute, and it's readily available in your supermarket. Okay, let's discard the scale and add the sugar. 2 tablespoons of sugar. Don't have to use brown sugar. You can use white sugar, or you could even use coconut sugar, and which is sometimes called jaggery, which is available from South Asian markets. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm using sea salt, adds a little bit more flavor, but regular table salt will do. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. That's one of the leavening agents in this recipe. Make sure that you combine all the dry ingredients before adding the wet ingredients. Let's get to the wet ingredients. First up, 1 3/4 cups of buttermilk. Waffles are very forgiving. You can actually make them just a little bit more liquidy than what the recipe calls for. Beyond waffles, buttermilk is a wonderful multitasker in the kitchen. It's great in baking, making cookies, but what I love it for is for marinating. One of my favorite things to do is to marinate chicken in it and put a whole bunch of seasonings in it, but my favorite is to marinate cauliflower with bearberry spice and roast it, and that stuff is delicious. Now we add 3 eggs. Break each egg individually into a container. Smell it for freshness. Make sure everything's good, and add it to the buttermilk. I can't do this one-handed. Maybe in a future video I'd try to crack eggs with one hand. As you noticed, this recipe is using 3 eggs. Most recipes for waffles usually use either 1 or 2 eggs. But why do we have a 3rd egg in this one? Well, there's 2 things that we need to keep in mind. Because buttermilk is also a leavening agent as well as the baking soda, we need to have something to combine with the gluten-free flour to make sure that it gives that texture. Adding a bit of fat from the eggs does that. Otherwise, what a lot of recipes typically call for, a little bit of xanthan gum, which is used for thickening and stabilizing a batter. But in this case, because we're going to be using the waffle iron and we want to get a crispy texture on the outside, the eggs do that job. The last of the ingredients, 4 tablespoons of butter, which is 1/2 a stick of butter. Melted in the microwave and cooled off and added to the buttermilk and egg mixture. Whisk to combine. I have one more trick up my sleeve, and that's adding a bit of cinnamon to the batter. Why am I doing that? Well, we're going to be saving this with apples, and the apples do have a bit of cinnamon in it. So the trick is to add a bit of cinnamon in the batter. We'll play off of the cinnamon in the apples, which yields a much more pleasant flavor. Like most batters, when you're adding the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients, make a little well little well of love, where you could just simply pour the batter into the middle. Let's make sure that we get all of that out. Now we mix. And compared to regular gluten waffles, you could make a very smooth batter here because there's no gluten to develop. So mix until smooth. Okay, that's really nice and smooth. I like to give this a rest for about 5 to 10 minutes while we heat up the waffle iron. The waffle iron is heating up. I love to put it on a cookie sheet. That way it catches any of those drippings. I've got my waffle station ready. I have my batter, I've got my iron, and I got a container for the cooked waffles. Here's another little tip. When your waffles are in the container, use a sheet on them, and that way it captures the moisture coming off of the waffles, and it does not go back into the container. One other change that I've added to this is most waffles call for cooking spray. I'm not a cooking spray fan when it comes down to my waffles. So I use melted butter and I use a silicone brush. That is a brush, isn't it? And I simply brush down the surface, which is a non-stick surface, but it will add a nice crispiness to the outside of the waffles. Get every nook and cranny there. That's just under a cup. Spread around. Close. And let's wait. When the steam stops, that's a sign that your waffle is almost done. There's hardly any steam coming off of it anymore, so let's check her out. Ooh, that is a nice, crispy, well-cooked waffle. Not a perfect shape, but the first one is always going to be the runt of the litter, but the flavor's there. Let's cover up. Perfect. Oh yeah. Mm-mm-mm. There you go. It's nice and crispy. Drop. Get that off the lip. Last one. Let's get her. Ooh yeah. Nice and toasty on all sides. 5 beautiful waffles. One thing I love to do with these is let them cool. And for those that don't get eaten today, these freeze beautifully, and that way you can enjoy them another time. Great, let's plate up one of these babies. Put those there. Let's put a little bit of apple. This is from another video that we did previously. Link in the description and up above. Put some more apple in the middle here. Add a little bit of butter for meltiness. Add a little bit more butter. Add a little bit more apple. Let's use a little bit of a Mediterranean influence. As we know in the Mediterranean, yogurt, nuts, and honey are very popular, but we are going to give it a little Canadian twist. A dollop of full cream yogurt. Okay, try. Let's give this baby a try. Oh yeah.
That is really good.
That is really good. Give it a go. Let me know what you think. Not bad for gluten-free, eh, Trent?
It is amazing.
Yeah. You know what? You're not going to miss it. But you're going to acquire a really good recipe that's going to be a little bit easier on your gut. So what is your favorite topping the waffles? Put that in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you like what you see, hit the like button and please subscribe. And in the meantime, keep maximizing life's small pleasures.